pregame show intro. What to look at here? So I watched this. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this. It's the English title is The Second Breath, or Second Wind. Jean-Pierre Melville noir film, and it is excellent. It is excellent. It is 2.5 hours long. It is right up there with the Akira Kurosawa epic attention requests for film length that really does pay off. The tension that builds is excellent, and the characterization, performance, setting, filmography, everything's spot on. So much so that I decided to jump into 2 more Melville movies. What is let's see, who did I pick up? I got. Oh wow, this isn't the one that I intended to rent, but I guess it's the one that I did. Leon Morin, Priest, which is a Melville movie, but oh, there we go. That's what that is. And let's see, La Cercle Rouge, Red Circle, which this one I did intend to rent. So, in all fairness to whoever picked that out, I had an allergy attack today, and was so suffused with cold medicine and allergy medicine that I was having difficulty understanding basic deals. The guy at the desk said that today was rent 2 for the price of 1 day, and I just could not compute that in my brain, and I actually had to ask him to explain what 2 for the price of 1 meant 3 times before ultimately settling in with, like, okay, I'm gonna just tell you I'm a little dumb today, and I need you just to tell me practically what this means. What do I do to get the best result here? And he said, go rent another Melville movie. And I'm like, thank you. And that's free? He said, yeah, that's free. And I'm like, all right, cool. I've been coming here for almost 3 years now, almost exactly 3 years, because I re-upped my membership today with Scarecrow, and I don't think I've ever come across that daft. And you know, those sort of casual exchanges that you have with clerks and folks who run places that you frequent. You don't get to know each other, you just sort of know each other's faces, and then you have one meaningful interaction that sort of colors how you actually see each other, and that's the one. That's the one that's gonna let them know who this guy is. Besides that, been reading Cory Doctorow's Red Team Blues, a Martin Hench novel. This is a very fast read compared to a lot of the other stuff I've read lately, and it's good. It's fun. It's satisfying. It does something that I've seen novels that are very post-structuralist and sort of very avant-garde do, which is attempting to incorporate modern technology and brands into the storytelling. But the thing is that Doctorow's story is about finance and tech. So incorporating brands into that makes sense, because those technologies, unlike other sorts of sort of less material kinds of culture, are very closely associated with brands. So when he talks about calling somebody and getting the default Cisco hold music, like, I know what that means, and that sort of detail drop adds a level of realism that makes the brand usage feel world building rather than this sort of avant-garde attempt to clutter the landscape of a fiction with advertisements, and as a way of expressing how cluttered our own minds are with advertisements. I'm thinking of a specific book, Fred Barthelme's Painted Desert, which does something similar, and which I like much less. Let's see, other than that, El Santo. Watch this. So this is, I have been watching several of the older black and white El Santo movies, the ones that use sort of more stridently satanic themes, rather than sort of like general supernaturalism, less folklore, more like this is Satan trying to break his way into the world. And so I'm going to show you what this is. So this is Santo in Witch's Attack, and this does what I love about these movies. They were made so quickly, at such a pace, and it's like the way that they're structured is, you tell that you know exactly what the conflict is from the title. You don't really have to be sort of brought up to speed on it. So they can do a lot of things that in other contexts would be considered fairly avant-garde. And in this case, it actually waits like 10 minutes into the movie to give you the title card, without context whatsoever, it drops you into this extended dream sequence where this woman is paralyzed, almost in a sleep paralysis state, and besieged by some sort of distress that we don't have defined for us. And the camera work cuts to a series of eerie, gothic structures, angles, lighting. Then cuts to a giant bird with its legs plucked, standing upright, with sitting on what looks to be like a demonic carving on the holding up the table. Then to this bat, then to this dog, then to Santo. And it's just this procession of images that doesn't give you any narrative thread, and it just throws you into them. This is not the sort of thing that you would encounter in a normal B movie that is trying to bring you on board with the plot as quickly as possible. I read an essay by Carlos Monsiváis that one of the things about the Santo movies that is so great is that once the titles tell you what it's about, you're just along for the ride, and whatever weirdness comes along, comes along. And this is a great example of that. And then Santo immediately begins infiltrating this building. Again, we don't know what the conflict is. We don't know who the players are. We just know that there's some distress. And this is very long. This is Santo Snake breaking into this building, climbing up, getting on the sill, sidling along, moving past windows, finally breaking into another floor, and then being immediately attacked. Which is great. That gets straight to the point of where Santo's fame comes in as a wrestler. And it's a good fight sequence. Does what many Santo movies do, which is find as many excuses as possible, as many opportunities to replicate a turnbuckle that Santo can climb for a tope suicida, a suicide dive attack. And yeah, so he wrestles. He's got a couple of adversaries, gets the best of them, they get the better of him. They have him tied up and unconscious and finally cart him away. 10 minutes in, we get the title. So, like, if you didn't know what this was, you would just think that you had stepped into the middle of the movie. But here it is, the beginning. Evening Time Zombies, good to see you. It's been a while. There's Santo, El Enmascarado de Plata, and Lorena Velázquez, and Atacan las Brujas. And so that's cool. And you would think that a title card would interrupt a dream sequence, right? That dream sequences appear mysteriously and they end just as abruptly, which is one of the reasons why dreams are so memorable, because when they end, we remember the images that they ended on, and that's very crisp and exciting in our memories. Not so here. Not so. The story continues. The dream continues with Satan making an appearance, as you see there. And Santo is bound on a table along with the woman that he had been trying to rescue, and surrounded by a satanic cult. Santo, of course, breaks out of his bonds, and then he wards them off by making the sign of the cross with his body. Which is a bold move. It's great because, you know, the sort of Satan's fall resulted from his pride at attempting to assume the role in the place of God. And so Santo, assuming that not just the form of the cross, as shows up in some other movies, like he'll have like a tire iron that's shaped like a cross, he actually puts himself in the form of the crucified Christ, and that repels them. So that tells you that Santo does not merely have the combat power of a saint infused by God, but he actually has the spiritual power of a saint infused by God. So he is both at once. Martin, it's good to see you. It's been forever. And the cult is scared of the lowercase t. It is entirely possible. Because he does have, I did notice, I don't know if it's maybe like a flexibility issue or what, but he doesn't quite pull his arms all the way across as a cruciform, but he sort of holds it out like that, and I'm wondering if that's maybe a deferral. So it's like, okay guys, this is the idea. He's warding them off with the power of God, not being blasphemous. But it's a really interesting way to end that whole sequence. And yeah, I dig it. Martin, I think you would enjoy these movies. I think you would find them compelling in the ways that I've been drawn to them. for many of the same reasons. And the last thing I'm going to show you on this is one of those reasons. So the dream sequence ends. We are brought up to speed that there's a woman, she's an heiress, she is also the potential incarnation of a priestess of a satanic cult, and she needs to have her potentiality realized so she can finally assume her throne. This is a story that's shown up in at least one other Santo movie. And she also, I mean, she inherited an estate with the stipulation that she must live there for a year to get her full inheritance. So they actually use that. Oh yes, no, I'm happy to spread the word of Santo. A few people have pointed at me saying that I love these for shtick value, for kitsch value. And I defy that. I love these for what they are. There's no irony here. This is amazing. So as that goes along, the woman who was besieged in the dream, who is of course safe because it was only a dream, she continues to be besieged by witches, as happens with witches, who are besieging. And so Santo and her boyfriend find the building that the dream was located in, and they infiltrate. This is a fairly elaborate infiltration sequence. They make it down this hallway. They break down a door. They find a crypt, a coffin with a lock. The lock can be undone by Santo because he has basically the fist of God, and he opens it up, and there's this. I don't know what this is because this is never returned to. They never come back to this. It is a human form with this mask on, this death mask, and some sort of beastly claw laid about it. And there are a few cutaways to Santo beholding it, and then they cut back to it, increasingly getting closer and closer on the mask. But the mask from this angle specifically, like this angle is the weirdest one, and it's got these eyebrows that are like caterpillars. They're put on there. You can kind of see that they're lifted off of the mask. And Santo beholds it somewhat knowingly. Again, this doesn't really get followed through with. The witches are attacking, not this. This just happens to be there. So where this gets extra strange is there's a time problem that happens here. This is very Lynchian, very Twin Peaks Lynchian. Oh yeah, no, Lucha films are exquisite. They do as B movies, they do things that would make sense in an avant-garde film. The B movies that Mexico was creating in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are fascinating, and I encourage you to watch as many say it's your fill. But so there's a Lynchian time problem here. So as you saw, Santo and her fiance, they both enter together in this close proximity. When they open this up, the fiance turns around, walks out. Santo kind of gives like a frowny nod at whatever this is and leaves. And there's a space of about 3 seconds between those two things, right? So boyfriend leaves, Santo leaves. Boyfriend goes into the hallway, opens a door, begins walking down the hallway, continues walking. This takes 25 seconds. This walk here takes 25 seconds, and from the last thing that we saw, Santo was immediately behind him. You know, you can stipulate that there are a variety of reasons. Maybe Santo got his cape caught on something and he's like waiting behind the scenes or whatever. But that is a little more of a literal approach to this than I think is really interesting. That somehow in the crossing of this threshold, there is a distance that was created between them, and Santo emerges from that same door literally 30 seconds later. So this guy had 30 seconds of time that Santo did not, and he crosses this distance fairly quickly. Yes, this is what I do to avoid DMCA. I don't think anybody's going to come after me for putting screenshots of a Santo movie, but I think that I have a much higher likelihood of getting bonked on the head with a warning if I actually showed like a clip. But also story time, right? So yeah, so then Santo leaves, and then it cuts to this guy driving away, and again they went in together. No word of coordination. He just leaves, gets in his car, and drives off. As he is driving, he is besieged with an image of a woman burning at a stake, and it zooms in quite frighteningly on her face. This actually scared me when I saw it. He veers away from it, runs into a tree, and crashes. And again, enough time has passed that it takes Santo a good several minutes to catch up with him by car. Santo, of course, jumps out, tries to save him, but alas, he is captured. So that's what happens. It's like after they break into this home and find this supernatural being that can never be returned to again, this guy gets like 5 minutes of time. Like extra time on Earth that Santo doesn't, to move forward, and that this time is in some way kind of a snare for him to separate him from Santo and enable him to be caught as a hostage and then turned into a zombie. So just amazing cool things that happen in this, and also and some other again, like the B-moviness of it definitely comes out as it unfolds. Satan is thwarted. I think the sign of the cross is employed, or rather the gesture of the cross is employed another time to full effect. But yeah, that is Santo in Witches Attack. Atacan. Is that Atacan las Brujas? Anyway. It is. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like some would say it's a time problem, but I think it's more than a problem. I think that's the glass is half empty look. So I'm not sure. In terms of why it shows up that way, I have no idea. In terms of the effect that it has, there are so many other similar things that happen in Santo movies in terms of this just weirdness that comes out. That it feels like somebody's imagination being given just direct impact on the film. Oh, well, technically, the camel clutch is his finishing move, which looks uniquely painful. The camel clutch and tope suicido, those are what you're gonna know Santo by. But yeah, there's another movie where Santo is his bat signal for the police is the police officer turns to a cupboard next to him, opens up a door, and pulls out a bust of Santo's head with a mask on it, and kind of is in the process of beholding it. Then hard cut to Santo, like, so the bat signal for Santo is a copy of his head that can be cradled. Just strange and amazing. I would love Santo to show up in God Hand. I would love a God Hand mod. I would love anything of Santo in a video game, which I think has only shown up in a few of the Fire Pro Wrestling games. But yeah, so that's the pregame show, and now we can hop into Resident Evil 4, which has a decidedly more intentional weirdness to it. Guacamelee, you know, I haven't played that yet. I should. I got to see my first Lucha Libre show on Cinco de Mayo. Also, my first time at a casino, the Snoqualmie Casino, the Lucha Libre Volcanica. That's a Pacific Northwest's Lucha Libre company. And I got to see my first suicide dive. And I was just like, it was amazing because it happens just as fast as you would think it does. And I didn't see it coming. The guy didn't see it coming. And it was, and there were like a few more. Yeah, my first Huracan Rana in person, first head scissors throw, a Huracan Rana to DDT conversion Just it is amazing. It's amazing, and I am more hooked than ever before. So yeah, I can't wait to get more of that in my life. So let's see, where's my